And welcome everybody to another episode of the Most Important Conversation. September, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Great to hear.
Yes.
Great to
It's a good
hear.
day.
Yeah. Well, as usual, I'm always looking forward to what you've got on your mind and what it is that we want to explore today and talk about. And so I'm going to let you kind of lead us into what's the topic of today.
Oh, the topic of today is selling the vision.
Hmm.
Selling the vision. We've been at this thing for a while now, and I'm always amazed at how you have this like gift to get buy-in from people, but not just any people, the right people,
Hmm.
right people. And in my years of working with business owners, going on 16 years now, I often encounter business owners that are very excited about what they're working on their business, and they are passionate about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to understand what it is that they're doing, there's like a rambling that happens and almost word vomiting, this excitement the person feels, but the words are all over the place, and it's very difficult to see and to feel what the vision is that they're trying to explain to you. And I was thinking, man, Chad is really good at this. And I want to pick your brain on, why are you so good at it? What does it really have to do with when you're selling the vision? Because what I noticed with you is it's not necessarily what you're saying, but it's what your energy is when you're saying it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's the thing that we need to be more aware of. What is the energy? Who are we being as we're explaining? Are we just being a bundle of like excitement and, oh, I want this person to believe what I'm doing, and I want them to be just as excited as me, and I want them to play in my sandbox, and yes, all of that. But in order to make it effective and work, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be, your essence has to be in alignment with what you're talking about. That's what I want to say. Your essence does. So can you speak to that through your lens of presenting TMIC all this time and bringing on some amazing people to the team? How the hell are you doing it?
Yeah. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. And that might be part of the secret,
Yeah.
is that it's not planned.
Makes sense.
But I think what you're bringing up, just to contextualize it before I kind of take some guesses at what might be going on, that you're experiencing or other people are observing. This is important for a couple of different reasons, because anyone listening, everyone is always selling something all the time. You may not think of it as selling, because you may not think of it like, oh, I'm selling an object or a service or something. Maybe you have a job, so you may not even be in sales. But we're always selling, at the very least, our views and our opinions and our perspectives. And whenever we are in conversation, and we're talking about having the most important conversations, well, to have conversations that actually move things, move people, advance ideas, you're selling. In that moment, you're selling. It may just be with family members, over the holidays or something. You're still selling, right? And so we have to kind of first understand that sales is a way of being, and it is not only relevant when you actually have a product or service to sell, number one. So I think what happens with a lot of people is that they are, well, here's another thing, I guess, just to back up for a sec. If you are, whatever you're selling, whether you're selling a vision or a product or a service, it has to be aligned with who you are. It has to be that it is sort of an extension of the self. So, for example, when I work with, or have worked historically with business owners, or even company executives, I will tell them that your business or your company is the vehicle through which you're delivering your calling or your purpose to the world. It's a vehicle to deliver that. So if you're not connected to your calling and your purpose, and you can't make the connection as to how this product or service is the vehicle to deliver that calling or purpose, then it's going to land flat. It's going to feel salesy. It's going to feel like you're trying to manipulate someone into caring about something that they wouldn't otherwise care about. Because the reality is this: people don't buy your ideas, your products, or your services because of the products, ideas, or services. That's the logical part of the equation. Before they even understand that they're going to buy something, they are either turned on or turned off by who you're being, how you show up, how you articulate things, what your body language is saying. And that tells them those things, your tone, your body language, the energy that you're bringing to something, tells people within seconds. They're not even hearing the words you're saying. It tells people within seconds whether or not you're trustworthy, whether or not, which is super important, because if I don't trust you, I'm not going to buy what you're selling. Whether you're just selling an idea to me over dinner or you're selling me a product or a service, if I don't trust you, I'm not going to buy it. They'll know within seconds, just based on your tone, your body language, and the energy that you bring, whether they can trust you. And how they determine whether or not they can trust you is based on a couple things. One, do you come off as someone who is authentic and you truly embody and believe, which is kind of where you started with this question? You know, it's about the embodiment, a way of being, of an idea. Do you feel to them that you embody that? Because human beings are first emotional, second logical. And we teach this in the TMIC work, right? When we talk about how the brain works inside of whole life architecture, we always talk about how within 1.7 to 2.2 seconds, an emotion has been experienced subconsciously, leading to a reaction, leading to a logical story, or the rationalization. We tell ourselves rational lies for why we just did what we did. That's the logical or rational part of when someone buys something. But you know what? The emotion was already activated 2 seconds earlier and determined that they were going to move forward. It was before any words were said, because within 2 to 3 seconds, you can't say very much. But within 2 to 3 seconds, we feel things. We know if we can trust somebody. And so it's all about energy. It's all about activating emotion. And it's all about the tone and the body language, which contributes to that experience, right? And it can't be gamed. That's the other thing. If you're trying to game it, if you're trying to get a result, if you're trying at all, the whole trying part is part of the issue. So one of the things we talk about in the TMIC workshops all the time is the importance of just being and sharing, right? And so I think that's what maybe you've been picking up on. I just show up and be and share. And I do it emphatically, not because I have no objective when I'm talking to someone or I'm sharing about what we're doing, other than I'm so thrilled and excited to be able to share with you about what we're doing, because I think it's so important right now with what we're doing. And I want to enroll and invite people. If it is a fit for them, then they might want to consider joining. And if it's not, then that's fine too. Like, I have no attachment. There's a non-attachment to whether or not they proceed.
I'll say, in the time that you've been sharing the story about TMIC with people, that the way that you explain it and what it is has become more and more concise.
Sure.
You've gotten clearer with that. So I do think that there is a practical practice of being very clear about what it is that you're building, what you're creating, what you're working on. I just want to reflect a minute, and then I have a follow-up question to see, am I picking up what you're putting down, Chad? So I had a client.
I'm drinking from my Swell bottle, by the way, which apparently is out of vogue now. Oh. And I guess you need to have a Stanley. Oh, so yes. I guess I'm really passé. Anyway,
yeah, I've been schooled by an 11-year-old on the Stanley cups, so I'm also getting in the know.
Yeah.
So I had a client that was working for a corporate, and he really wanted to get out. And he just had a tremendous amount of potential. Now, I'm kind of flipping it a little bit because this isn't necessarily my vision for me. But in listening to my client about what he wanted to create for his life, it was very clear to me of what that picture looked like. And so when I was explaining to him the possibility of what his own business could look like, I didn't have to struggle for the words. I mean, it just, I was being the expert in that lane that we were particularly talking about of how to form his new business, because he wants to step out of corporate America. And there was just this state of flow that was coming from me of what the vision could be. And as you were talking, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I was totally selling my client on this vision of what is possible for him and his life. But I wasn't doing it in a place of self-serving. It had nothing to do. This was not for me. This is painting a picture of what was possible for him. And there was so much buy-in, but as I was explaining it, I remember the charge that I felt in talking about the possibilities, what was possible for him. And so there's almost a state of charge that you feel when you're aligned. And there was a state of energy that was coming off of me as I was talking about it from a place of, I know my lane. I understand this lane. I'm passionate about this lane because I know what it can do for people. And I didn't even have to say those things. It just came off of me in conveying it. And so he really grabbed a hold of that vision and just ran with it. I mean, his life has totally changed. He's like, I see it. I totally see what's possible. And sometimes we do have to have somebody that's outside of our box to say, hey, look at what's possible for you. And once he grabbed a hold of it, he didn't need any kind of coaching on what to say and how to sell it to the people that he's working with now. They just get it. He's got that vision and that passion of what's happening for his own business. And you know what? He has zero attachment to whether somebody joins or not.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical as well, too. So when you were talking about, oh, I'm just being in these conversations, I'm focused on my being. In the experience that I just conveyed to you, is that the context that you're referring to of your state of being, of just, it was so not forced. And now it's not forced with him. So it wasn't forced coming off of me and painting the vision. And when he grabbed a hold of it, nothing is forced coming off of this man when he speaks about his business. It just is. It's the thing that he's doing, and there's no attachment to it. I'm doing this thing, and I own the lane that I'm standing in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I just threw a lot out there at you, but can you start kind of breaking that down a little bit? And
well, I think another thing that you're kind of touching on, and there's so many ways to talk about and arrive at the same destination around this, which is people are attracted. All right, let's connect this into some of the TMIC teachings. Okay, the brain feels the most secure when it can predict something, right?
yes.
And human beings are always looking, subconsciously, we're driven, always looking for predictability because it makes us feel safe, right? The unknown is a terrifying thing for most human beings. It's just the way our brain is wired until we master it otherwise. And so when someone shows up and they are deeply emotionally connected to what they're doing, and they are emphatically communicating it, and they have no attachment to whether you like it or you don't, whether you engage or you don't, that's not why they're sharing it. They're sharing it because they can't contain the excitement and the enthusiasm that they have for what it is that they're doing. And they show up in such a way that you have trust of what they're saying. What you've just done is you've given them the perception of security, and it's through confidence.
Yes, that's the word.
It's through confidence. They're experiencing you as confident, and therefore they have no reason to doubt you. And if there's no doubt, then there's no question that they're feeling secure, because doubt leads to insecurity, and when you don't have doubt, you're secure, right? I mean, when you don't doubt something, you're secure. You have confidence that it's going to happen, right? And so when you show up, when someone shows up and they're emphatically and emotionally and deeply and profoundly connected to what it is that they're doing, whether they're selling a product or they're selling an idea. And remember, we're always selling everything all the time. Everyone needs to really get that. We are always, always, always selling.
Down to selling your spouse on what you're going to eat for dinner.
Exactly. Yeah. Or what you're
Yes.
going to do for the weekend.
Correct.
I mean, we're always selling someone,
Mhm.
right? Because all selling is, by another name, is persuasion. We are always trying to persuade people to see our perspective. That's what selling is. See my perspective. This product is amazing. If only you were standing where I'm standing, you would see. So now I have to communicate it to you, right? And we're in an age right now where you just look at social media. Everyone's trying to sell everyone else on their perspective or view of something. It could be the view of their view about the news, some world event, some public policy issue, whether AI is good, it's not good, dangerous, not dangerous, are you left, right on the political spectrum? I mean, everyone's selling something, right? Because it's selling, by another word, is just persuasion. That's it. Or enrollment. That's another word you can use for selling. I'm enrolling someone into my vision of this product, service, idea, or whatever, right? And like you just said, we enroll our partners, we enroll our family, we persuade our friends. We're selling something all the time. And if you, and so to get someone to engage with you, you have to come at it from a place of total detachment and honesty, where you actually don't care if they engage. That's the irony. The less you care about whether they engage, the more authentically you're going to show up, the more confidence you're going to inspire. Because if you're trying too hard and you've got an alternative motive and you can't just be and share authentically, within a few seconds, we're going to sniff it out. The other person's going to know, I feel like I'm being sold.
Yeah, feels gross.
Right?
Used car says, that typical stereotype of a used car salesman with the slick back hair.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that there aren't sales techniques that you can learn. There are. I mean, that's just psychology, actually. There's different psychological techniques that people can learn. But I promise you, someone who's mastered, the sales techniques, but is not an embodied, living, breathing example of what it is that they're selling or communicating, versus someone who maybe doesn't have all the techniques, but shows up authentically and can activate that sense of trust in the other person because they're not trying to do anything. They're just being and sharing. That person will always win more than the one with the salesy techniques. And because think of it this way, if I have to artificially persuade someone to buy something or buy an idea or, engage with whatever it is that I'm promoting, if I have to artificially create that situation, they're going to maybe do it because in the moment they feel persuaded, but then you get the chargebacks. Then you get I didn't want this in the first place. Then you get the blame. Then it's because they didn't come by it honestly and authentically. It was a manipulative thing, right? And so again, there are techniques. And so if you combine someone who's showing up honestly and without attachment and is just really like the embodiment of what they're selling, and they have some of these sales techniques, I mean, they're virtually unstoppable. So
you mentioned deeply connected to and then non-attachment in the same sentence.
Yeah.
So for those that do not understand the contrast and the difference of that, I mean, through TMIC, I understand what you mean because I've been doing the work for a while and hearing the lessons, but it almost sounds contradicting if you don't understand.
Yeah. They're two different things, right?
Yeah.
So to be deeply connected to something is where we are emotionally invested in the thing that we are communicating, right? We're emotionally connected to the thing that we're working on, the thing that we're excited to share. I'm emotionally connected. Emotionally
connected or emotionally invested?
Well, to me, they're the same thing.
They're the same? Okay.
Yeah. Meaning if I'm emotionally invested in something, then that thing that I'm working on, the energy of my emotions, I'm devoting to it. I mean, I'm invested in it, right? Yeah. Like I'm getting up every day and I'm conjuring up the emotions that are going to be required to sustain me throughout the day, to maintain my connectedness.
Could you say that you're creating the energy that morning, that the thing that you're creating, like the thing that
Yeah.
I'm working on, I have to work up this energy. Sometimes we don't wake up with the right energy. Sometimes
No,
we
you have
wake
to
up
center
with,
yourself. Yeah. Well, this is where we talk about connecting to your intention.
Mhm.
By reconnecting to my intention every day, once you create what that is, that helps recenter the energy and the emotion and the connectedness to this. Now, the detachment part that you were asking about,
Mhm.
I'm detached as to whether or not the people I'm sharing it with do anything with it.
Does that include non-attachment to the outcome of what it is
Yes.
that you're creating?
Yeah,
Yeah, that feels like a really fine line to me,
it
because
is.
we just encounter, I mean, I can only use my experience in saying this, is that I've just encountered so many business owners that are so, not are only are they emotionally invested in what they're doing, they believe what they're doing, they are the thing, they feel aligned, this is their calling, and they're so attached to how it looks, how it unfolds, who plays, what it yields, what kind of results like there's just so much attachment to the outcome of things.
Here's why that's a problem. If you didn't get the outcome that you were attached to, would you still be doing it? Is the question I would ask them.
Well, that makes me scratch my own head, because I think, well, yes, there is an attachment to the outcome of what I'm doing. The thing that I'm doing is my livelihood. The thing that I'm doing pays my bills. So there's an attachment to that. I don't, well, then it makes me think of Gandhi
But
and
this
Martin
is
Luther
going to
King.
affect the success of your doing it.
Well, I can see how it's very difficult to separate the two, because there
Yeah.
is the pressure of our lifestyle
Yeah.
and making sure that we can continue to support the lifestyle that we desire for ourselves.
Right.
And I can see how, if somebody were to create a business based on the need to support a particular lifestyle, I just feel like that's a recipe for disaster.
It
It's
is.
so stressful and chaotic, that path of doing
Yeah.
it that way.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you create something from who you are and what you feel like your mark is in this world, in this life, and what you're meant to do here in this reality that we live in, or this perception that we live in, I should say, that you hear that cliche term comes in of, well, the money follows, the money
Mm-hmm.
will follow, the money will show up, the money will follow.
Yeah.
But is there really a guarantee to that? Is that really a way that people can truly live their life and still have the desired lifestyle that they want for themselves and their family?
Absolutely. The money will always follow. But here's the clincher.
Mm-hmm.
We really should do a whole talk on this, or have a series of conversations. I know I'm including it in the whole life architecture work. Time, human beings' relationship to time is the clincher.
Say
That's the
more.
clincher.
Okay.
Because if I need something to produce something by such and such a time,
Yep.
now I have artificially put in place an obstacle that is going to, or a variable, I should say. I've artificially placed a variable in the formula that is going to make me attached to every conversation I have, to every action that I take. And it's going to make me start twisting and angling myself towards achieving that outcome versus the pure state that I can come from when I have no attachment to the outcome and the time that it takes for the outcome to emerge.
Well, Chad, now you can't call the electric company and explain this when your bill is due.
No, I understand that. So this is why it's difficult. I was saying to someone the other day that maybe I should do it, or someone should write the book. I don't know what it would be called, but are you sure you want to go and be an entrepreneur?
Yes.
And literally, like, we've heard all the good stories, and everyone
Yeah.
loves to write their book about the triumph and
Yeah.
that they won. But what about the book that literally walks you through the grinding life of what it's going to take for you to achieve the success in authentically building a business around your calling or your purpose or your intention. Because it could be a grind. It doesn't always have to be, but in most people's experience, it is, only because, think of it this way. Most of us, until we've decided to join the path of the entrepreneur or the business owner, most of us came from a I'm working for someone else world. And that structure and that world is really established. You know, you get a job, you make what you make, and then you fit your lifestyle into what you make. The alternative potential with the business owner entrepreneur is, no, I make as much as I want to make, and my lifestyle does not have to squish into a tiny thing. My lifestyle is determined by the amount that I can make, which could be unlimited because I'm no longer in a fixed salary kind of situation, right? So we're in the world and not of the world in this situation where it's like we're in the world of having to pay bills. We're in the world of the electric company requiring things by such and such a time. But the not of the world part is the part where if we authentically want to actually create what it is we want to create and do it from the purest place, if our business is going to truly be the vehicle through which our calling is lived out. Well, let me put it this way, Tara. Let me think it like this. Your calling is not paying the electrical company.
Love that.
Your calling is not paying someone by a certain day. That's not why you were born. You were not born to pay bills.
Yeah.
So that variable cannot be inside of the equation of honestly communicating, being, and sharing your calling and your purpose. Does that mean you don't have to pay your bills? Of course not. You have to pay your bills. This is why so many entrepreneurs have clients and side gigs while they're trying to build their thing. And the two cannot be conflated together.
You mentioned the word grind, and you and I talked about this recently, that the environment that I grew up in, both my parents were business owners, and how I learned how to build and grow a business was to grind with action, make it happen, force the outcome, push harder, work longer hours, push harder. However, in the experience of working with you and partnering up with TMIC, what I'm actually learning from you is that it's not the grind of action. Action is important. You have to take action. Yes, yes. However, it's more of a grind of being unrelenting on who you are and working on the ontological aspect of you. Who are you being? How are you showing up in your business? What story of yours is getting in the way? How are you getting in the way of something unfolding and happening? Are you in alignment with your calling, or are you doing something just to simply earn money? To me, it's the ontological grind.
Yeah.
And the action feels more, I'm going to use kind of a woo term, I suppose, that people could take it that way, but it feels more like the action is more divinely guided when you're focused more on who you're being in this thing that you're creating. For example, meditation. We talk about meditation a lot. I know our group does daily meditations because it's, for us in this environment, it's crucial. Meditation. For me, meditation is the ability to connect to source energy. That's why I like to meditate. That's my calling into that. But you had mentioned the grinding of being an entrepreneur and being a business owner and creating something. But I just really want to distinguish the difference between forcing, the grind of forcing, or the grind of just, you're not letting up on who you are and how you show up in the world.
Well, it's the Wu Wei principle of no forced action, right? So if you're running your business, grinding it out and forcing it, then you're not operating by that Wu Wei principle of no forced action. With the Wu Wei principle of no forced action, the only action that is ever taken is inspired action, right? And so in order to have inspired action, I know this can sound to some people like we're splitting hairs, but when you're working on who you're being, and you recognize that you are responsible for everything that's happening in your life, which is a whole nother can of worms that,
Whole nother
we
can of
deal with.
worms.
And most people, I'm sure, are hearing that going, what the hell is he talking about? I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't responsible for getting hit by that car or whatever, right? I mean, but I'm not going to get into that. We can deal with that another day. But when you accept that we are all responsible as creators of our life. I mean, no one's forcing us to do the things that we're doing, at least not in, the free world. In the free world, no one's saying you have to sell this product. You have to, no one's even telling you, when we really get down to it, no one's even forcing us to go to work if we have a job. You might be like, well, how am I going to pay my bills? Well, you wouldn't, but you're not being forced to go to work to pay your bills. There are plenty of homeless people showing you the path of another way. Right?
Okay.
Meaning they're not forced. If we were
Right.
truly forced, we would have no homeless people. They would be forced to work. Right? So we're not forced. We're not forced to do anything. And so realizing that, then you suddenly start to look at, well, okay, then what does matter in terms of how I make choices, how I decide if I'm running a business or something like that? Well, it's inspired action. And inspired action only happens when you're focusing on who you're being, reconnecting to yourself deeply, understanding, you can't say I'm building a business around my calling or my purpose if I don't know what my calling and purpose is. And to know what your calling and purpose is, you need to know who you are.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if no one is doing the work to know who they are, I'm pretty sure you're not building a business around your calling and purpose. I'm pretty sure you're just building a business to try to make a quick buck. And that's going to be difficult for you to succeed at, because coming back to where we started today, when you're communicating and articulating a vision around something that you're trying to just make a living at and it isn't connected to your being, you can't be and share because it's not authentically connected to your calling or purpose, to your intention for what it is that you're trying to create in the world. If it's not connected to that, then people are going to know, because when you communicate to them within 5 seconds, your body language, your tone, the energy you bring is going to inspire or uninspire trust. One of two things is happening. And if they don't trust you, it doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter. Actually, you're probably just digging yourself more of a hole, everything you're saying, because they're now, gee, I wish this guy would just leave me the hell alone so I can get back and, do what I was doing.
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking. So if you
100%.
can inspire trust, they're not thinking that. They're engaged. They're curious. Who is this person that I'm talking to right now? Right. And so it's all a being thing. It's all a being thing. And then just to bring it back to what you were just talking about, yeah, it's not easy. When you're building a business, or building a life, or trying to even just communicate an idea, if you're not connected to your authentic self, it's going to be a struggle. And if it's a business that you're relying on, that you're trying to build for your income, you have to keep the need for the income separate from the business that you're building, because otherwise, if those two things get conflated, all of a sudden you've created the conditions for an attachment to whether or not you're making the income. And now you're watching the clock, and it's the time.
And
Right?
you're willing to bend on things that you would not bend on if you were
Absolutely.
operating
You're
from
willing.
core.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what we're doing with TMIC is sort of, we're being really attentive to make sure it stays in its little pure bubble, to not start cutting corners, right? Because we're going to see it through. And this is the time thing, right? People say, well, this has taken a long time. Well, show me in the manual before you showed up here how much time you were promised it was going to take, you know? I mean,
I want a copy of that manual.
you think Gandhi, when he was taking inspired action to lead the most successful nonviolent revolution that then inspired Martin Luther King, which led the next successful inspired a revolution for social justice. You think those two individuals sat down and said, well, this is a good idea. How much time do you think it's going to take?
Yeah.
Right. Because if we can't get this done in about 2 years, I don't think I'm going to do this. No, they were in it. Not. Their whole being was in it. And time wasn't even on their mind. The only outcome that they were committed to was seeing the transformation of social justice occur. And if that was the work of their entire life, so be it. And incidentally, they were taken care of and they made money in the process, but that wasn't why they did it.
Yeah.
And I think that we're in a situation right now in society where we're on the verge of many social justice revolutions again. We're here.
Yes.
We need leaders and people who are able to stand in the gap and not be concerned with playing the old game of I'll only do it if I can make this much money in this amount of time, otherwise I'm not interested. Well, those aren't the people that we're interested in playing with in TMIC. We're interested in people who are bold and courageous and feel that their business or their service or whatever it is that they're doing is some ingredient to the solution of where we're going in the society, and they're willing to see it through no matter the cost, no matter the time.
They're being the thing. I mean, when you talk about Gandhi and Martin Luther King, that they were being, they are the message. They
are the message.
How they showed up was just, it's like their words and the energy of who they were matched.
Yeah, well, Gandhi, it's even his quote. We talk about it all the time in TMIC. When what you think, say, and do align, that is happiness. And happiness is the state that we feel when we are coherent and congruent and aligned with our authentic self, right? So there are people who are running businesses or running companies who are, I remember one time I was in San Francisco and, for years I use, medical marijuana to help me sleep. Right.
Yes.
And so whenever I go to different cities, I got to if I'm staying in a hotel, especially, I got to make sure I get, what I need. And I was at this one dispensary, and there was a guy who was, I don't know, maybe early 30s. And man, this guy was living his calling. I mean, he was so helpful.
Yes.
So excited about all the different, and he wasn't trying to sell me because it didn't matter. I was in the store. He knew I was going to buy something. He was just so excited to inform me about, this brand versus this and these terpenes and he was just he was nerding out on the science of the whole thing. People, we've all met people. I've met waiters or waitresses even, who I'm like, well, they're doing what their calling is. Like they should be, not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur or business owner. Some people are living their calling in their job. A lot aren't, most aren't, but there are some who are.
You know what the whole experience feels like to me? It's that whole cliche term of slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that in the beginning, when we decided to jump together, there was no expectation of any outcome on any particular timeline.
No.
But what is actually happening is, look how far we are into this project.
Yeah.
And every single one of our needs are met. Our needs are met, even vacations.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck does that happen in a startup when you're just creating something completely new? But there is an element of trust. And to me, that goes back to the ontological side of being a business owner, and really leaning into your faith, whatever that is for you, but leaning into it. And I know that through my own experience, that there has been a lot of leaning into my faith, leaning into my belief of how the universe works, of how God works, whatever label you want to put on that. And there's an element of letting go. And Alanis Morissette talked about how ironic it is that when you let go, you have more than you can ever possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And I think that, I just got chills. I think that It goes back to this client that I was talking about before, who was working for corporate America. I need the security. I need the security. I said, listen, you just have to jump. And when you jump, your net is right there. You don't see it from where you're standing, but there's an element of just saying, I'm going to jump. And you jump, and every single time you jump, it's there for you. It may not show up the way that you want it to show up, but it's there for you in forms that are totally unexpected. Whatever need that is that you have, it's totally unexpected. But I also believe that when you're clear about who you are and what you're doing in this world, and you stand firm in that when you do make that jump, that the pieces that align to help you get there magically show up.
Yeah. But there is an important caution that I want to put out there with everyone, which is that, again, it comes down to the time quotient, right? I mean, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be obstacles to overcome, things you'll need to, handle that will be really uncomfortable, that will make you question, you may even have to shrink your lifestyle for a bit. Like you have to be, you know what I mean? Like you have to be willing to do what it takes. And if you are, it will usually take less, but you have to be willing to do what it takes. And that's it, it's everything. If that's why it's got to be connected to your calling or purpose, and you've got to be emotionally invested, because you won't have the ability to withstand the impatience, the pressure that you'll feel, the maybe shrinking your lifestyle. When you're talking about your needs are met, I just don't want people to assume, okay, someone's, I'm bringing in 30,000 a month. So you're saying if I quit my 30,000 a month job, that my $30,000 a month needs are going to be met next month?
Nope.
Not necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
Right.
Yes. Thank you for the clarity.
You may get $9,300 of your needs met, which means you may need to shrink your life for a while you're building the thing that is your calling and purpose. And then eventually that will turn in your favor. And eventually could be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Depends how big your vision is. I mean, look, if your vision is just to open up a pizza shop at the end of the street, probably could get that done in a year or two.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If your vision is to transform the way that world organizations and companies lead themselves, which is part of what we're up to, that ain't a 1 year vision, right? So it's all context.
It is. Well, just in wrapping this conversation up, it really has everything to do with, when you're talking about the emotional investment, that you have this deep inner knowing. I know this is going to work. I know this is real. I know this is my calling. And then investment in that inner knowing, you're going to have to lean into that quite a bit. But it's that state of the essence of you, your energy that you carry in that knowing. You have to carry that knowing with you everywhere you go.
It's even one level deeper.
Okay.
Here's how deep it goes. I don't know if this is going to work, but I must do this.
Oh, yes. Ooh. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yes. And people will feel that when you're talking about the thing.
Yeah.
That's what you want to bring to the table.
Yeah. So the fact that you don't know if it's going to work means you can't be attached to it working.
Yeah.
But you must do it because it is the most authentic expression of your calling, of your intention, of your purpose, of why you are here, right? This explains starving artists.
Yes.
I must sing. I must paint. I must write. I can't not do it.
Yes. And I mean, if you've got the right team of people around you too, which goes back into selling the vision of what you're doing,
right,
and being aware that you need to have a team to help you push the thing forward.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking with one of my members last week who was saying, this is me. This is my calling. This is what I'm born to do. I don't know how to do the business. Oh, that was a huge self-awareness for her, because now she can say, I don't know how to do the business part. Who do I know? And who do I know that may know somebody that can help me with the business part? Could be in forms of coaching, could be people joining the team. You could assemble a team. It could show up in so many different ways, but that self-awareness is really, really critical as well. Do the thing, but also be aware. Do you have what it takes to get it out there so that the world can experience your gift, your magic?
A big thing that a lot of, especially small business owners and entrepreneurs deal with is, it goes by various names, but, founderitis or whatever. Like, I am the only one who can do everything and I have to do everything. So therefore I'm not going to, and it's a lack of trust of other people. And you just end up spinning your wheels because you just can't, no one can do it all. Yes, we need to enroll other people. And the best way to enroll people, coming back to the very beginning here, is to show up authentically and not be attached to whether they jump in or they don't. Trusting that the right people will jump in when you find them and when the time is right for them. That's it. So we're always selling. We're always selling. Well, September, this has been a great conversation. And hopefully people got, value out of it. And this is the kind of stuff that we do deal with, inside of the whole life architecture work and the TMIC work, among many, many other things. But our whole focus is on who you're being, and we're the Olympic trainers of, so to speak, of the work to sort of, build you as a person, so that you have the fortitude and the clarity of mind and the emotional sobriety and all of these things to create a life that is completely aligned with your most authentic expression of who you are, so that you can be happy regardless of what you're doing. And when you're happy and you're in alignment, whatever you're doing, you're going to do better, and probably so well that it's going to succeed, because that's how you're showing up. And that's the flip, right? We always talk about the be, do, have thing versus the have, do, be. And so, so I don't know. I think that kind of sums it up, but we'd encourage all of you who are watching and listening to come and check us out at themostimportantconversations.com or TMIC Global. They both lead to the same place. We're doing some exciting things, and we hope that we can work with you and help you advance your vision and your mission and your calling, your purpose, your intention, whatever you want to call it, your reason for getting up in the morning. And that's what we're here for, to help transform the world one person at a time. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again on our next episode.
That concludes this episode of The Most Important Conversations. This in-depth conversation could set you on the path to self-improvement, which is essential if you want to be an effective leader and take meaningful action in your life. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of these stimulating discussions, you can find them at TMICglobal.com. Remember, the world is at a crossroads right now. You can't afford to waste this opportunity to take charge of your life, build meaningful relationships with others, and co-create a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.